Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming back. Our next presentation will be given by Gareth, who is our Executive Head of Security. He's going to be helping us understand how cybersecurity works, how to protect your business, and what measures you need to put in place to make sure that you are not impacted or disrupted. This is an important one. A few of you have raised and asked questions around that, understanding that there are scammers online, losing data, and all of that. So let's listen out and understand what is the cybersecurity. They're trying to send us online, but online we are also feeling vulnerable. So Gareth is the man. Make sure you have your questions, and we'll make sure that we are empowering you with knowledge to safeguard your business and also grow your business. So let's welcome this very handsome young man on the screen. On the screen. I'm still trying to decide if you're handsome in person, but I like the man on the screen. I mean, he looks suave on the screen, eh? But thank you, Gareth. Thanks for joining us, buddy. Over to you. Your mic is on, KG. Can we switch Gareth on, please?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I don't know why they used my Tinder profile picture for, but yeah, it's a proper catfish scenario that people face, and many of us as consumers get also duped by these kind of things that also ultimately lead into a cybersecurity catastrophe that we inadvertently have to experience. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gareth Peck. I'm the Executive Head of Security. So my purpose here today is to highlight one simple fact is around the risk that you are facing in the small to medium business, even as a consumer, and in all facets of your life with regards to cybersecurity, with regards to this massive challenge that we've never faced before. And it is something that everyone needs to be consciously aware of. Now, the simple question everyone asks is, what is cybersecurity? Now, the simple answer to that would be cybersecurity is the practice of securing your digital assets, securing your identity, securing your technologies, securing your networks by ensuring that things like your confidentiality, the availability, and the integrity of all facets of your digital experience is secure. Now, this is the important conundrum that we face. We are all living in a digital world. And we, whether we like it or not, have a digital footprint. And that digital footprint is at risk. So what I'm going to do today is I want to highlight and paint the picture to you as to where the challenge is and how it affects you, how it affects organizations. And this is a problem that goes right through from the consumer all the way to the enterprise. Nobody is immune from a cyber attack. Now, simple question. Why is cybersecurity important? Firstly, from a regulatory perspective, we have regulatory compliance, like the POPIA Act. We're all familiar with the POPIA Act, the Protection of Personal Information Act. These are government gazetted and mandated data and laws in place to ensure that data is protected and that our identities are protected. This is a phenomenon going out throughout the world where in Europe you have the same in the form of a GDPR, right? The General Data Protection Act. Now, the problem, I don't want to focus on data regulations. That is not the issue here. What is important to us is money, right? Our pockets. When we get affected by a breach, it has a fundamental impact in our pocket, right? We've seen how organizations suffer when they are affected by a breach. I'm going to give a very simple example. And I know from a context perspective, this is a large customer, and it may not seem like it will be impactful to you. So a few years ago, there was a breach in America, a company called Target, very similar to our macro, our game, etc. 40 million of their customers' personal identifiable information was stolen, right? So it's credit card information, banking information, etc., etc. The cost of the breach cost the organization $60 million, right? Now, for a big organization that's listed on stock exchange, $60 million is something that they can survive. But the fallout from a breach through reputational damage was more devastating to the organization because their losses was incurred in the region of 600 million. What that meant was their market share dropped. The entire C-level, CEO, CIO, CFO, CISO was all removed by the board. So that has a devastating impact to an organization. Now, what does that say about a small organization that doesn't have a very complex cybersecurity team to protect them? Another example, who wants to take a guess? How many attempted breaches Vodacom's networks prevent per month? Just a single guess. 3 million. 3 million attempted unsuccessful breaches our networks prevent, right? We have teams of best-of-breed security specialists and technologies and partners that assist us to achieve this result, protecting our networks, protecting our customers, protecting our data, every aspect of the security world. But where does that leave you? Where does that leave you as a normal person in the street? Nobody has the pockets of Vodacom, and realistically speaking, organizations are all exposed to this. If we look at another statistic, 60% of SME customers never ever recover from a cyber breach. An example I saw about 2 months ago in the US, a small company to the value of about $2 million. What happened was the finance person received an email from the CEO instructing her to make payment to a partner in China. The email looked legit. The person, they thought it was real and they processed it. The organization never ever recovered from that. We've seen other examples of customers where a person basically plugged in a USB stick that they just found on the floor. They thought, human curiosity, let me see what's on this USB stick. There was malware on there. It crippled the entire organization. The entire organization went belly up, right? So as you can see with the cartoon is one of these things where a picture says 1,000 words. If we look at how technology has evolved, 10, 15 years ago, when we talked about cybersecurity, we think about an antivirus, right? Cybersecurity is not that. Cybersecurity is a complex construct of different disciplines in order to secure all your digital assets. So with that in mind, cybersecurity now has been called to the big boys table. It's become no longer a cost center. It's moved beyond being a business enabler. It's a business imperative. Every aspect of your decision-making capabilities within your organizations need to have a cybersecurity frame in mind. Now, what we've seen with a lot of small organizations, last year in Durban, there was a huge influx of breaches happening specifically for small to medium-sized customers, where customers that run their businesses using Instagram, and we were speaking a lot about Instagram and that whole digital direction. What was happening is organizations their Instagrams were being hacked, their accounts were being taken over, and these organizations were ultimately locked out of their Instagram accounts where all their digital assets are, and it affected them. And to the point where these threat actors were calling them for a ransom to pay $1,000 to re-enable or to give them back their access to the Instagram account. There was numerous examples of that. And a lot of the times we think, cybersecurity, it's not our problem, it happens overseas. No, that's not the case. South Africa, we getting there. We up there with the best. And this is not a good thing. We are rated number 6. And bear in mind that number 6 has actually changed. I actually checked it this morning. We're now number 5, right? for being a prime target for a cybersecurity breach. Now, why is this the case? I mean, if you look at statistically, hacks happen every 39 seconds. Now, a lot of the time, if I speak to somebody and I say, what do you know about a hacker? They think it's some guy sitting in his mother's basement just trying to hack. That's not the case. There are literally armies and thousands of different threat actors out there, and I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit further. 43% of cyber attacks target small businesses. Who wants to take a guess why? Easy target, exactly. It's an easy target because, you know, the maturity from a technology perspective is not, you know, where it should be. 30% of phishing emails get opened. Who here, by show of hands, have received a phishing email? Right? Who here, by show of hands, has experienced a data breach? The interesting thing, there's no hands up, but a lot of the time, the statistics is that organizations don't know they were breached. So you may have your hands down, but you may not know that you were actually breached. Statistically, it takes an organization 200 to 260 days to know that they were actually breached, right? A lot of the time, the threat actors are in, they steal the information, and they're out, right? Now, the average cost is 149,000 Rand per day. I don't know about you, but I don't have that money to spend per day. Maybe Dr. Tom, you got, no? Okay, maybe that bonus will, you know. And, you know, the interesting and scary part is that only 14% of companies are prepared. I mean, where does that leave us? So it's a huge risk that we need to be consciously aware of. Now, I want to touch on this. So as part of this masterclass, it's also about educating you around who the threat actors are, who your enemies are. There are multiple threat actors, ladies and gents. As an example here, you have the first one is a nation-state threat actor. Nation-state threat actor, quite simply put, is a country hacking another country. We use an example of Russia hacking Ukraine or China hacking America, America hacking someone else. It's organized from a government motivated geopolitical perspective. The ones that we impacted by a lot is the cyber criminals, because their motivation is greed, profit, money, stealing the information, stealing to make money. Because every bit of your personal identifiable information has a value associated. If you go on the dark web, for your name, your credit card information, your ID number, your passport number, and all those details, it can probably be equating to $10. Now, if you're stealing a company's records that has 4 million users with all of that information, you can tally that number up, right? Hacktivist is another threat actor. What is a hacktivist? The hacktivist is an interesting one because they're driven through ideological motivation. So these are people like Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, you know, the WikiLeaks people. They're driven through trying to stick it to the big bad government, stick it to the big bad corporate to expose the horrible truths in the world, etc. The problem is they also borderline on the criminality. Terrorist groups, this is a simple one. These people are evil. They are driven through ideological violence. An example of this is a water filtration plant was breached in the US. Now, all of you know a water filtration plant doesn't hold credit card information. There's no banking information. What threat actors were trying to do was they were trying to change the formula for palatable water. So what that means is if you change the formula for palatable water, you can poison an entire populace. Too much potassium, too much fluoride, simple things like that. Who would have think of something like that? So these are some of the threats that we face in our digital lives. Thrill seekers is an interesting one because these are our youngsters, probably a few of you in the room, you know, that's trying to see what they can establish from a knowledge perspective to try and hack and get as much information as possible. The problem with this is they most of the time move over to the criminality aspect. Then one of the biggest threats that your SMEs face is the insider threat. Now, what is the insider threat? We probably think maybe a disgruntled employee or a disgruntled partner. No, it's actually you and I. if we are negligent, we are an insider threat. If you are clicking on phishing emails, if you are sharing your information without being consciously aware of the impact it has to your organization, you are a threat to your organization. So these are some of the incredible things. So at least when you leave today, you can tell the family at home that, you're labeled as a potential hacker or potential threat to your organization, because these are things that you need to be conscious about. Now, this here is a concept I just wanted to introduce you to, and I didn't want to spend too much time in it, but it's a very important thing of how organizations, security organizations, look at cybersecurity. So there's a framework that was created. And the reason the framework was created, and I'm going to use this analogy to simplify the different risks for cybersecurity. So this is an analogy that can only be used in South Africa. So think of our homes. We live in gated communities. So at a gated community, you have the big wall. Then you have the guard. Once you're in the property, when you get to the house itself, there'll be the dog. There'll be the beams. When you get to the house, there'll be the burglar bars. There'll be the cameras. Right behind the burglar bars is the mother-in-law. Behind the mother-in-law, you have the ADT alarm system. Right, and then the keys to your kingdom or your jewels is in the bedroom in a safe. Now, there are different elements that needs protection, right? Historically, we'd only worry about protecting the perimeter wall. What about the insider? What about the people working inside? Who has the keys for every door in the house? Who has the passwords for everything in the house, for the safe, etc.? So you need to apply it from that perspective. Now, a cyber kill chain was created by a company called Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin, many of you actually know them. They're a defense contractor in the US. They were famous for creating the stealth fighter jets. If you watch Top Gun 2, they made the Dark Star jet. But they also have one of the biggest think tanks in the world with regards to cybersecurity, and they created the cyber kill chain. What it actually is it's the anatomy of a breach. So they looked at the breach and they basically dissected it and reverse engineered a breach into all the different elements where a threat actor can come in, all the different doors, different windows, etc. And this is one of the foundations that organizations use to build the different technologies. So when we talk about cybersecurity, we're not talking about one product, we're talking about a layered security approach. So you need to have security upon a security. Think about an onion, right? You have layers upon layers, because if they penetrate one layer, you need to have protection from another layer, right? So this is what the kill chain kind of implies. And ultimately what we're trying to protect is the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability of the data. If the confidentiality is affected, if the availability is affected, and if the integrity is affected, this can all affect the bottom line for your organizations. Now, this here is an interesting one as well, just to talk about the client challenges that you are currently facing. One of the biggest ones are ransomware attacks. The ransomware attacks has grown at such an exponential rate over the last few years, and especially during the COVID phase. There are so many examples of consumers that have been hit by ransomware attacks, by big organizations that have been hit by ransomware attacks. Then you have IoT attacks. What is an IoT attack? An IoT is any connected device. The example that I used about the water filtration plant that was hacked, they didn't get hacked through the network. They came in through the aircon system, right? The HVAC system, your CCTV camera monitoring system, all of these are IoT systems. These can all be exploited. Then you have cloud attacks. A lot of us are starting to use cloud technology, but are we using it correctly? Are we using the right solutions, the right policies to ensure that your cloud vector is protected? Phishing attacks. We all receive phishing emails, right? Outdated hardware. It's the easiest aspect for a threat actor to get into your organization when you're using old technology. One of the things, and this was touched on earlier, was many of you don't have dedicated IT, don't have dedicated security teams, right? This is a risk. This is why, statistically, you are an easy target. So there are different ways that you need to think and approach cybersecurity. You need to ensure that this becomes everyone's problem. The way to address this is security is from the boardroom to the basement. That's the rule. So there needs to be conscious training, conscious awareness for the users around security. And software vulnerabilities. patching of software is very important. When your machines are unpatched, you're leaving an open door for a threat actor. Okay? BYOD policies. So bring your own device. This was a big thing back in COVID, and the risk that you have is when you have people bringing their own devices, you don't know what malware is on the devices and they're connecting onto your network and they can cripple your environment. And then again, like I mentioned and stressed upon, was the insider attacks. Now, ladies and gents, I'm gonna do a quick demo for you. And this is a 2-minute demo of a ransomware attack. And this is just to show you how quickly it happens. Now, I want you to play out this scenario where I'm the hacker, and I sent Lelani a phishing email, right? And Lelani, being negligent, she clicks on this phishing email and it runs an executable. What happens is with malware, it doesn't only install on the machine, it starts spreading across your entire environment. It starts moving across laterally. And the demo will demonstrate to you exactly how quick it impacts your machine and what actually happens and what organizations face when they need to pay to get their data back. Okay? So here Lelani, she clicked on the link, and within seconds, the malware is launched. So what you'll notice is that, as a quick example, on your desktop, you have your files, you have your pictures, your documents, etc. But now your malware is launching and something is happening on your PC and you don't even know that this is happening. First sign of trouble, you'll see that all your files start to get encrypted. And what the hacker does is they leave a script with payment and ransom instructions. So when you open up that script, it will tell you exactly where you need to go in order to retrieve your data. So there are multiple options. So there they're giving you a browser. Clicking on, you go to the browser, and you put it a link. You put it in the browser, and you actually go to this Maze ransomware site, and they're fancy, And funny enough, this is probably one of the oldest ransomware that was out there. So what they do is, in a typical ransom scenario, there's something called proof of life. If I kidnap somebody, they want to see proof of life. Prove to me that you have this person. So what they do is the same. To prove that they actually have your data, you must copy their decrypt file and you put it in the location, and they will allow you to decrypt 1 or 2 files just to prove to you that they have your data, right? And then once that is done, it's payment, right? So now you test, you test, they prove that they have your data, depending on how important that data is. Many organizations would want to pay, but many organizations don't have the money to pay. Because from a payment perspective, a lot of them are asking for payment in Bitcoin. What's the price of a Bitcoin? $50,000, $60,000? That's a lot of money, right? Now, there's multiple options. You can pay with your credit card, which is actually simple, stupid, because if you put your credit card, now they've got your credit card information. So that is not advisable. But that is as simple as that, And now, if your organization is ill-prepared, that took 2 minutes. You can be closing your doors because of something as simple as this. And this is probably one of the most rudimentary, simple ransomware attacks. There are much more sophisticated attacks out there. I want to share another scary story that I actually heard of a few weeks ago. A lot of you people look like TikTokers. I can see you guys doing the TikToks. And you're familiar with like the deep fake videos, right? Deep fake is where they'll take Dr. Ntombi's face, and put it somewhere else and so on. So what happened in this attack was the same scenario where, like, with the CEO sent the email to the person, but what they also do is they have the software to intercept your voice. So they'll record you. So they'll make a social engineered phone call to you, pretending to be whoever, and then they just need you on the line for about 20 seconds, so they record your voice, and they've got the technology to actually mimic your voice. So now I can put a call to Dr. Ntombi and say, it's Gareth, and then she'll believe it's me because it sounds like me. Now, if she wants to do a Teams call with me, there's a deep fake. It looks like me. And this is what they are doing. They are getting so advanced, it's actually quite scary. But the interesting thing is that human error actually accounts to 90% of these breaches. That is why cybersecurity awareness is so important. So, you can have the best technologies in the world. You can be the richest company in the world. But if you don't have cybersecurity awareness, one person can put your whole company at risk. Now, one of the things that I just wanted to put here is a simple plan around, how to avoid a potential attack. Okay, so for organizations, for SME customers, understand the difference between compliance and security. Compliance is a tick box. It doesn't secure your environment. Security goes across every aspect. You need to understand what your data is, how important your data is, and who the enemies are, right? So make data security everyone's responsibility. You need to make everyone aware of if Lelani picks up that USB stick, plugs it in, how it can impact the organization, the impact of sharing too much information. We're all living in a world where we're sharing too much information. I mean, 80% of us shares our whole lives on Facebook. It's very easy for us to expose ourselves from that perspective. I mean, another quick example. For me to hack you, all I need is your name, your surname, your email address, and there are different tools, and maybe your phone number. And I can actually build a profile. I'll go search on LinkedIn, and I'll find out more information. I can build a full profile about you. And I can start hacking you as a person, as an individual. Knowing your enemy. So those threat actors that I told you about, I mean, it's also about, knowing your enemy better than you know yourself, right? Understand what is important to someone else. And also very importantly is account for your cloud vendors, account for your ISPs, account for all your third-party providers. Why? An interesting thing is that third parties are also a huge contributor to risks. Now, what that means is if you have third-party contractors coming into your work environment, they come in to fix the servers, or they come in to fix the network. They've got carte blanche access into your environment. You don't know what risk they are bringing to your organization. So these are things that you need to be quite conscious of and putting the right measures in place. And plan for the eventuality of a breach. When I say eventuality, in my world, we never ever say if, we say when. It's inevitable. Cybersecurity breach is going to happen. What are you doing to protect yourselves? You need to have business continuity plans. You need to have backups, offsite backups of your backups. You need to have all remediating plans. You need to understand who has the keys to the kingdom. You need to understand who has access to what information. You need to make sure that strong passwords are used. You need to make sure that you have password policies that changes the passwords every month. An interesting stat is that over 50% of SME customers never change their passwords. Never change their passwords, right? That is an invitation. So, ladies and gents, it's a scary world, but we are here with you on that journey. So from a Vodacom perspective, we have partners that assist us. We do training. We do cybersecurity awareness. We are with you on this journey. You are not alone. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Sanele. And I just wanted to find out, it's not necessarily a very big security question, but I just wanted to find out, what is the probably legal justifications or ramifications of ethical hacking as well, and if that's a part of, does that fall under cybersecurity as well?
Of course, yeah. So in our world, ethical hacking is something that is an acceptable standard, because we at Vodacom, we do that as well. We have our own red teams, and it's constant testing of our environments. We'll do penetration testing, etc. So for those of you who don't know what the penetration test is, think about a wall, right? Now you'll have something called vulnerability assessment, where we'll assess the vulnerabilities to see where the cracks are in the wall. A penetration test is like what the gentleman is referring to, that ethical hacker that is going to go through the crack to see how far they can go, to see what information they have access to. And then that is what provides organizations the way to say, okay, this is where the gaps are, and let's put the remediating plans in place. So yes, from a legal perspective, ethical hacking is the industry standard. It's controlled. It's, the white hats. You get the white hats. The black hats are the bad guys. The people that live in the dark web. But yeah, it's something that we can also assist you with. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Let's just grab the chef over here.
Thank you so much. One question that I do have is, with this cybersecurity and, everything, thingamabob, how do you know that this company is the right one to be in charge or to run your cybersecurity? Because if hacking is there and it exists, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of companies that are prone to receive that, negatively, how will you know that, okay, this company is the company that should be doing my cybersecurity, and they're not the ones who are actually going to go into my system and find out that they can actually win by taking everything that I have and then go and leave me stranded? Thank you.
Correct. So yes, I mean, a very valid question. Now, I mean, and you employing the approach what we refer to in the cyber world as zero trust. Trust no one, right? And vet everything first. So yes, you need to vet. And within the cybersecurity industry, there are a lot of key OEMs and technologies that you know are trusted. So if you think of the word of Microsoft, Microsoft is not a spaza shop, right? You will know that's a trusted organization. Fortinet, these are strong organizations that have a long experience in this way. What happens in the cyber world is also something what we refer to as referenceability, right? When we are looking at Vodacom, say we're looking at a new technology or a new vendor, we go through a proper process, a rigorous process to assess and vet and see where they've done work. So if they've done work at Discovery Health, or if they've done work at Nedbank, the same goes from that perspective. So you need to always vet, you need to always double check and check from the key known distributors out there, whether these are trusted suppliers, etc. Yeah.
But my waterless chef, the answer is 10 to us.
Yes.
That's what it is. That's the simple answer, my waterless chef. Alrighty. The gentleman in the white top, then we'll come to our lady, and we'll end with Cheslin.
Oh, my head is spinning because we run a child safety and security company that prevents unauthorized child pickups and child kidnappings from primary schools and ECD centers, right? So we deal with ID numbers of parents, we deal with ID numbers of children. And as you know, there are companies who work mainly on hacking companies to sell the data, right? And currently we are a small startup that doesn't have the capacity to build our own databases. So obviously we outsource to companies like Google, Firebase, and so forth, right? So I heard you mentioning that sometimes third parties could not be the thing to go. So are you suggesting that in our instance, should we build our own databases, or should we continue with the outsourcing? Thanks.
Now, so when I refer to about third-party risk management, it's about putting different measures in place to ensure that you protect yourself. So I'll give you an example. There's something which we refer to as privileged access, right? Privileged access is the people that has the keys to the kingdom. Like this is not your normal user. This is like a power user. Now your third-party vendors are those power users, right? You need to ensure that there's different processes that you have in place, that privileged password is properly secured and how those users have access to it, just as an example. Another thing is your third-party suppliers. I mean, ultimately, they're providing you with a service. You need to ensure that the service that they're providing you is of an industry standard from a security perspective to ensure that you are protected from a risk. So they're managing your database. My question to you is those databases encrypted? Because that is the easiest part for me to get that information. So those are simple things. It doesn't cost anything. You need to put the accountability on your third party and say, listen, you are holding my information, but what security are you putting in place? So it's not a matter of not trusting them. It's just a matter of ensuring that you are double checking and scrutinizing and applying a zero trust mindset, as well as we use zero trust methodologies for security to ensure that your data is protected. Okay.
Awesome. There was a question.
This
What
lady
happened
over
to
there.
your question? That's it. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Bulelwa. It's not a question, it's more an addition to what you mentioned as well, that in certain instances, it's not that it's going to be in and out, that the hack is going to come into your network. Sometimes they actually come in and they sit for some time because they are actually assessing, and at an opportune time, that's when then the attack. And then in those instances, it's quite an attack because they've been in your network for some time and they've infiltrated a number of areas, key areas and key business areas as well, that I think then the follow-up question would be for smaller businesses then. How do they, what can they put in place that they can have early detection? Because it might seem that perhaps it could be an in and out attack, and to that video that you showed, they will just immediately run that executable and they lock your files. But in certain instances, they won't do that. They could just be like that person that's playing around, and then when they feel like, okay, now I'm done with what I want to do, I'm just going to attack you. What can the small businesses put in place?
I have an answer. They can cast it out. Karabashanda! I'm sure they can. Honey. They can cast it out of that computer, my man. Get out, devil! Come on, Gary.
Yeah.
You
100%.
put the laptop on the floor. Holy. I'm sure, Gary.
You just destroyed my whole mind, my train of thought.
Of course, it's not gonna work.
I think, there are simple best practices, that small organizations can use. So it's around, firstly, knowing who has access to what information. So around who has access to the information, your passwords, etc. It's about the user awareness. But now you're referring to the technologies. There are multiple technologies that can provide you with early detections, etc. So, having the right firewalling solution in place, having email security solutions in place. Like I said, it's a layered methodology. It's a layered approach. It's also when it comes to small businesses protecting your information, you need to make sure that, like, we also use something which is referred to as least privilege. So you're providing as little access to a certain server as possible. So what we do is, if I need to have access to a server, I'm not just going to go and work on the server. There's going to be a workflow approval. Ntombi is my boss. She needs to approve that I'm supposed to work on that server, and I'll get given access at a certain time. And we have tools that will basically monitor what I've done on that server. So it's like, monitoring to the nth degree. So there are multiple solutions. Again, come to us. We'll assist you on that journey. It's not something that can happen overnight. It's an education. It's a process, and we'll love that with you.
Awesome. Are you good? You're good.
Okay.
Oh, excellent.
Perfect. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. A round of applause.
Oh, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.